Hello.
Hello, Larry. You got a copy on me?
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
And you, brother.
Yeah. Uh, I'm a little nervous, but like you said, when I remember in another interview where somebody asked you something like, "What's it like to be with Ringo Starr?" And you said, "Do you remember what you said to the woman?" He,
Oh, yeah. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like I do. Yeah.
that's good to know.
Yes, it is.
It's an honor to meet you, and thank you very much. Uh, I've been a fan since hearing this album here in
Awesome.
1970. This is
Aw-
still the best live album ever.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Uh, and you're starting to tour again, March 24th at the Ritz Theater in Tiffin, Ohio. I'll have all the information, when I do this video. Um,
Okay.
so can we start? I'm interested. You opened for Led Zeppelin for I think like one and a half shows.
Yes. Yes.
So can you tell that story?
Yes. Well, the first show was at in Cleveland at Public Hall.
Yeah.
And and in Cleveland, brother, we were very familiar with Cleveland, but from doing the upbeat show and playing a lot of gigs around there, uh, ballrooms within the city, and we did the Beachcomber in Ashtabula, Ohio, and that's I'm telling you, you're right up there with the good guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we had a lot of fans, and so we got a great reaction out of the Cleveland audience. And I guess Peter Grant, the manager for Led Zeppelin, didn't really appreciate as much as we did anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the next night we were at Olympia in Detroit, and we were just fixing to go into Inside Looking Out, and we would have brought the house down, man.
Of course.
They were already out of their seats, Larry. They were
Yeah.
right at the front of the stage, and
Yeah.
everybody's like, and Terry Knight comes out and it's surprised the shit out of the band because it's like, what are you doing? And then he gets on the microphone. I'm sorry, but because of contractual obligations, Grand Funk has to leave the stage. And all of a sudden, beer bottles and wine bottles and all kinds of crap come flying up on the stage, and we're like dodging things. They didn't want us to leave the stage,
Yeah.
but the Zeppelin's manager feared that they wouldn't even be able to take the stage. In fact, it took them an hour and a half after we were gone to show up on the stage. I guess, they had to cool them down that long. But in that time, half the audience had already emptied out of Olympia.
Yeah.
And that gave plenty of space for the bass player, Melvin, and I
Yeah.
to go and sit right about mid auditorium. And we're right in the middle. With, okay, entertain.
Show us what you got.
Yeah.
Did you ever talk to Jimmy Page or Robert Plant during that time, or?
Never met the guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably
And
nice guys,
yeah. Uh,
It's always the management, dude.
yeah, of course. Yeah. Uh, I've seen some early footage of you when you were in the Fabulous Pack, and you were just and the footage is you just singing. You're not playing guitar. So at that point, were you not even playing guitar, or was it just for that video, the video I saw?
No, that was the configuration.
All right. Now dig this. You don't care for me, I don't care about that. Got a new fool, like a light. I have only one burning desire.
We had Kenny Rich out of Windsor, Ontario, on guitar, and we had Rod Lester on bass. Don Brewer, who was the drummer for Grand Funk,
Yep.
um, he's on drums, and we had Craig Frost on keyboards.
Yep.
So I didn't need to play, and I I liked standing up there and just singing.
You're doing great in dancing, and yeah, it's awesome.
I like that stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And that was a good groove for me for a while. But then when we went to the East Coast and on promotional gigs, and we were promised that if we did good, that we could go back and make some real money.
yeah.
So we went, and we didn't know it, but we were getting paid $350 a night, and found out about it after we had the worst experience with weather. We were stranded on Cape Cod out there, and two of the guys were married. And by the time we got back to Michigan, their wives were threatening to divorce them, and the band broke up.
Yeah.
Two guys leave the band's going to break up.
Yeah.
So that's when I told Brewer, I said, you know what? We need to make a 3-piece band and have no women involved, no wives. They can't be married, and they can't even have a close girlfriend. That way we're going to keep this, we're going to keep the band together.
Yeah. And then you found Mel from Question Mark and the Mysteriums, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was rehearsing with Question Mark and the Mysterians at Delta Promotions, which was the outfit that sent us out to the East Coast. And Brewer and I were up there sitting in the waiting room, waiting to get in to speak to the head guy and give him a piece of our mind and find out what happened to our money.
Yeah.
And that's where, and part of the facility at Delta Promotions was this rehearsal hall that they had. And although you couldn't hear everything, you could feel the bass coming through the wall, and you could hear the kick drum once in a while. And I'm sitting there, and I look over at Brewer, and I said, "Dude, are you hearing this bass player?"
Yeah.
He says, "Yeah, that guy can play the bass."
Yeah.
And I said, "We need to talk to this guy, find out who it is." I had no clue who it was, Larry.
Yeah.
And when they took their break and Mel came out, it was like, oh man, there's a guy I went to school with,
Wow.
We rode dirt bikes together. We smoked pot together. We did all kinds of stuff together. Anyways, I told him, we're going to start a 3-piece band, Melvin. And I don't know, if you're solid at where you're at, but if you'd like to try out and let's see it, he said, man, I would love to be bass player in that 3-piece band, because he thought the world of both myself and Brewer as far as our musicianship. Yeah. And we started Grand Funk Railroad the next week, but we didn't know it was the name of the band yet.
Yeah. My friend Glenn, he's a huge fan of Grand Funk like me. And I think it was 1969, he went to see Sly and the Family Stone, and Sly and the Family Stone never showed up, which is no big surprise. But right. You guys played instead, and that's the first time he was aware of, and he became a fan that day. Do you remember anything about touring with Sly and the Family Stone? Or
yes,
yeah.
As a matter of fact, Larry,
yeah.
It's like that was a situation that happened even at some of the big pop festivals.
Wow.
I remember one time Sly pulls up in a great big limo and everything. Everybody's waiting for him to get out. The door opens, sits there for, God, it must have been 10 minutes or so. The door closes and away he goes. And that's all you.
That's a real rock star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Grand Funk, of course, equaled the Beatles' Shea Stadium attendance record and sold out the venue in just 72 hours. And this is before the internet, right? If that was the internet, you'd be like Led Zeppelin was with their reunion. It'd be sold out within an hour, probably. But
right on.
I know there's footage of that whole concert. Do you know if it's ever going to be released on DVD or
well, it's doubtful, because the faux funk, I'm talking FAUX funk.
Yeah.
That's what I refer to them. Now, legally, Larry, they can call themselves Grand Funk Railroad because the corporation that controls the trademark is 3 people.
Yeah.
Myself being 1/3, those two other guys 2/3. And even though I wrote 92%
Yeah.
of the music and sang it and played, that doesn't mean squat when it comes to the legalities of ripping somebody. I mean, a corporation.
Yeah.
So even though it's legal for them, how honest is that?
Yeah.
For them to claim being Grand Funk Railroad and not telling anyone that the guy that wrote and sang 92% of the stuff is no longer in the band. Seems like, there should be some kind of forewarning or foretelling. But since that's how it is, and in that video that you're speaking of, in that show, I was the front man. I was all over that stage. I was the one running back and forth, and the cameras, a lot of the time, were on me. And
I
they
see.
are
That might
trying.
be the issue.
So they are presenting an incarnation
Yeah.
of Grand Funk Railroad without, the benefit of having, the guy that wrote and sang that stuff.
Yeah.
And so it isn't to their benefit.
Yeah.
To release.
They're not thinking of the fans, right?
They're not thinking of
No.
the fans, of course not.
Yeah.
If they were, I mean, honesty would have been right up front. Well, he's no longer with us, but here's the other guys that are taking his place and blah, blah, blah. But none of that has happened. So,
But Mark,
Such
you
is
know
life.
that all of the Grand Funk fans know that you are basically, it's similar to John Fogerty with Creedence Clearwater Revival, right? And I was wondering, have you ever met John or know him, or because you two are kind of similar with your stories, some of your stories.
Yeah, I've never met him, Larry, but as you were just saying that, I was kind of having this little creative bubble. I'm thinking, man, would it be great to get John Fogerty,
Yeah,
Lou Graham, Steve Perry, myself, and make a group out of the guys who got rejected or, taken advantage of. And it's really, I'm not bitching.
yeah.
I'm really not whining. That's not my intention, because I'm speaking the truth here. We got taken advantage of, and the fans have not been given the truth. The fans have been just played for fools.
Yeah.
We'll put all these people up there and they'll not know the difference. I mean, when Foreigner goes out, dude, there is not even one original member in that band, and they call it Foreigner.
And the Guess Who right now.
Yeah.
There's no original members. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
They play the music, and the fans just want to hear the music, unless they're the hardcore fans, and there's still some of those around, the Grand Funk fans. They have forums on the internet and what have you, but it's kind of the way the world has gone.
Yeah.
Phony.
Yeah. I do know the whole story of you signing the contract with Don and all that, but maybe could you tell the story again for the viewers?
Yeah. Well, we were on the road touring, and every night after the show, I mean, in the first place, let me just tell you that we never got high and went on stage. It happened one time in Hawaii at HIC Auditorium, and it wasn't until it was during the drum solo, and Mael was behind the amp over on his side. I'm behind the amps on my side. We're kind of taking a towel to our face, getting ready to go back out and finish the song. I look over and I see this big glowing red. And I see some smoke coming up, right? And I holler up, "Hey, send that over here to me." So brother, it came over, and
Yeah.
I took one poke off of that thing, one. And it's time for us to go back out. So we come running back out, and Melvin and I are out on the front of the stage, and we are jamming. Dude, we are so high, we don't even know it.
Yeah.
Brewer ends the song. We're still out there playing. It was embarrassing because I couldn't find my ass with both hands after that.
Yeah.
And we swore off. So sober on stage, but every night after the performance, there was always whatever was on that rider, you know, as far as booze, it was broke out, and everybody was having some drinks and beers and what have you. And that happened, and I had a few beers, and I went back to my hotel room, and Don showed up at my door. And I wondered, what is he doing here after the show? And he says, hey, Mark, the band all of us need to sign our individual ownership of the trademark into the corporation where it'll have this protective umbrella. I thought, because I didn't see it coming, and I thought he was my friend, and I thought he was looking out for the best interest of the band. I said, yeah, okay, I'll do that. He says, okay, let me go to my room and get the papers. And as he left, I'm thinking, why the hell didn't he just bring the papers with him? You know, but and I tell you, I can see how the indigenous people got taken advantage. Give them a little, you know, firewater. Yeah. And they'll sign over the whole reservation to you. They'll sign over every blanket. They'll sign over every horse. They take advantage. So I felt like I got taken advantage of, because when I signed that thing, I did not know that I was going to get a notice in the mail saying I was no longer an officer of the corporation. And I'm going, what? And then I get on the phone with them guys, and it's like, we're going out, and we're going to go out and do this. And I said, no, and they're telling me they want me to, you know, go out with them. And I said, no, man, are you kidding? Well, how can you do that to somebody and then demand something? I said, you're, you know, you got the wrong guy. So anyways, that's how it happened. I signed my life away, as they say. And, but I have forgiven them. Even though I don't condone what they've done. And I think it's bullshit that any band can go out and say that they are the band, and they're misrepresenting. They can be dishonest, but it can be legal dishonesty. And that's what we got going on in the world.
Well, even the fans, like even me, it's like, okay, I'm going to forgive Don and Mel for what they've done. I'm, you know, because when I listen to the music, I don't think about all that stuff. I just, you know, enjoy the music. And so I forgive them, but most Grand Funk fans aren't happy with them. Yeah. So,
and I can see why.
Yeah.
And I have said for 23, 24 years now, Larry, you know, I would go back out for the sake of the fans, because I would do it, because when I was, you know, a Beatles fan, when they were all still sucking air, I'm thinking, you guys do it for us. Put the band back together for us and tour so we can come see the band that we love. We want that music, but we want to see the guys that really made it. We don't want to see any phonies up there. You know, so that is, that's what been my stand all these years. I would have. And I hear in interviews, and somebody even sent me a clip of one where Don Brewer was saying, they asked him, well, will the original band ever get back together? And he says, never say never. But he always says, never say never, because it's an easy way out. It's like, just something. It's like you can embarrass somebody. You can say something very embarrassing. Your teeth look like shit. And then if you say, just saying, afterwards, it's acceptable. You know?
But wouldn't they be making more money with you, right? Wouldn't that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Listen,
is it ego? Is it kind of okay? It's ego.
it is the curse
Yeah,
of mankind, brother.
yeah,
I believe that pride, human pride, and it is the nature of the human being. And I was just talking to some friends the other day about this, that what we've got here in the United States, a lot of people have taken the jab. I call it the jab because it is not legally a vaccine. It's not a vaccination. It doesn't do what vaccines do. And I know a lot of other things about it because I took the time to study it out and dig it up because it just didn't feel right in my gut.
Mhm.
But for those people who have taken the jab and their whole family's got the jab, even if their whole family dies because of it or sudden death, this person, because of that nature of the human being, that pride is never going to allow that person to admit wrongdoing. And there you go. Egos are us, brother.
Yeah,
And this is what it is. I have to, because I'm a Christian, I have to look past that. And I look at the person and say, my God, they were fooled. They fell for it. They took the bait. They did it, you know, innocently because they were scared.
yeah.
Fear, compels us to do a lot of things.
Mhm.
But that's where it is. And that part of the human being, the pride and the ego, man, I don't know what we're going to do with that shit.
Yeah. Uh, and you almost died a few years ago. Can you tell that story? I have heard it, but I'd like
Yeah.
for the viewers.
Well, for the viewers' sake, my wife and I were in Detroit. We were staying at the Renaissance Center down there doing some PR, doing some radio and doing some video ads and what have you. And my wife had already gotten up in the morning. I was just kind of hanging out in the bed. And the next thing, my wife had come out of the bathroom and she looked over at me. She said my arm had shot up, my left arm shot up in the air, and then my leg shot up. And she thought I was just fooling with her at first until I fell out of the bed. And then she knew it was something serious. And she called 911 and they got some paramedics up there and they got me on some oxygen. They called an ambulance and it put me in an ambulance and took me over to Harper Hospital. What happened was I had a bundle branch block, and it's the nerves that control your heart and the contraction of the ventricles and, make it function to pump. They didn't get the signal. It was a bundle branch block. They were blocked from that signal. And I took sick.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the emergency room on a gurney, hooked to an external pacemaker. And these doctors, there was 3 doctors over maybe 6 feet from me looking at this machine in the corner. It has a big screen on it. And I'm hooked up to all this, the wires coming everywhere at me. And it felt like they plugged me into the wall. And I hollered out, to the top of my lungs, and I can holler loud,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
My wife came running in from out in the hallway. Honey, what's the matter? And I said, these guys, they're trying to kill me. I said, it feels like they plugged me right straight into the wall. And when I'm telling her this, they do it again, and I'm gone. I died.
Mm-hmm.
I was gone from my body, but I didn't see any white lights or any of this. I just felt the relief of leaving the bone suit. And I didn't even know what it was all about, except I knew this is where I came from. It felt like, oh my God, I'm finally home. I'm home.
You're closer to home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that happened a couple of times, and then, paddle me. And the guy is standing there with the paddles in his hands. And this is a doctor who had come in from out in the hallway, who heard the commotion too. And he said, we got him back twice. This is what he told my wife. We got him back twice, and there's no guarantee that we could get him back a third time, if he goes again. So we got to get him to OR and get him on this, get him a pacemaker put in. So that's what happened. But let me mention, Larry, that on the re-entry into this bone suit, I was given, I got an upper leg, or a leg up on the re-entry, and I'm doing okay in life now because of one thing. I realized that debt, D-E-B-T, debt consciousness is the downfall of us all. And that what Jesus was talking about, owe no man anything but to love one another. And that is a mental state. In the physical world that we're living in, who doesn't have a credit card that they're, owe something on? Who doesn't have a car payment, a mortgage payment? Who, as far as the money debt, and then who is not under the scrutiny of people who have looked at them because they're of their jealous eyes, and they put them in some kind of a debt to, they should help everybody else because they got this. They should help. They should do this. They should do that. And so you got unfulfilled expectations of other people upon you. That's some more debt. And then you got the debt of your own regret. You can hold yourself in debt.
Yeah.
But there's so many forms of debt, brother, that we don't realize how they are weighting us down. I did as soon as I left this bone suit, and I felt that freedom.
Yeah.
Even though at that time my son Jesse was still alive, he lived in our house.
Yeah.
We took care of him. I knew I had that responsibility. My kids, my grandkids, my great grandkids. But it was so good to be free on the other side of that debt consciousness that I didn't want to come back into this bone suit. I came back kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
But I came back.
Yeah.
And I like to share with people that it is that debt consciousness, it is accumulative in its nature. It's like a wet blanket, and they keep putting more and more and more on us, but we don't realize it because it's so gradual as it comes to us. But every little bit that has ever been put on us is still there unless we set ourselves free from it.
And that's, that's the reason you've forgiven Mark and Mel, right? You've just let it go to be at peace with yourself, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Don and Mel. Yeah.
You were in Ringo's All-Starr band, of course, a few years back. I was curious, did you just get a phone call, or how did that all happen?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I got a phone call from Ringo. And he's in Morocco.
Yeah.
And but I had already spoke with David Fishoff, who was the promoter for the tour. And David Fishoff does rock and roll fantasy camps now. He's been doing that for 25 years.
Yep.
But he asked me if I wanted to do Ringo's All-Starr band this year. And I was going, yeah, man, this is 95.
Yeah.
I said, that'd be great. And so the next day I get the call from Ringo, and he's just talking to me. He said, glad to have you on board. I hear that you accepted the challenge, and here we're going to do this, and we're going to be rehearsing out in Vancouver, a couple of weeks out there rehearsing, and then we're going to start in Japan. And he was just the nicest guy, really the nicest man. He only gets sideways when people start asking him for autographs, or at the worst timing. Can you imagine being Ringo Starr?
I wouldn't want to be a Beatle, Mark.
Oh my God. You would never get any rest. Yeah.
Great
Great guy, though. Great guy.
couple more questions here. Oh, there's one thing. Have you ever seen there's a lot on YouTube, a lot of these reaction videos of Grand Funk doing Inside Looking Out. Have you ever like seen those? Because
Yeah,
the
as a
people's
matter of
reactions are always amazing.
yes, the first one that I saw, a friend of mine sent me, said, "Have you seen this?" So I click on the link and it goes, and it's this guy and a girl. And I don't even remember the name of it, but I've seen a few of them, but they would stop and they were going, "Oh my God," blah, blah. And I'm thinking, really?
Yeah.
Never heard anything like this before. Eh? Really? And some of the comments, well, it sounded like the raw band
Yeah.
to me. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, boy, that's really what's missing from
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you can do. You can hit this button on your computer, Larry, and you got this famous drummer playing behind you. And then you
Mark,
got
I could make an album.
yeah, man.
Yeah. What earlier on, like, was there pressure between making albums? Like when you were making Closer to Home, for you, did you feel pressure like at all? Like for it to be a success, or
No.
no? You're pretty
We
confident.
Well, and we were so worn out at that point from live touring
Yeah.
that there was hardly the time to get in and record an album. But we did. I forget which one it was. Maybe it was E Pluribus.
Mm-hmm.
It took like 3 days to cut that album, mixed,
Wow. Yeah.
finished,
Yeah.
finished. And that we went in knowing what the songs were going to be because I had already written them, and we would do them in sound checks, and so it didn't take us long. And there was no click tracks back then, Larry.
Yeah.
And people ask me, well, what about the music back then or today? What's the difference? Vast difference. It's called feeling. It's called reality. The reality's kind of been removed and been replaced by what they could, CGI. It's like,
And they're trying to get everything perfect too.
there
right?
you go. Yeah, man. And it's the click track. That's a clock. You're following the second hand on a clock. And if you play to that, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
We didn't play to anything but the excitement of the drummer, and he would speed it up and then slow it back down, and he would slow it down and speed it back up. But it was all over the place. But really, there was nobody who had a clock and was going, "Oh man, that timing got up." No, they were, because that's the human. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
So to acclimate to something that is perfect, it's like it's rough.
Yeah.
But people, they've had it shoved down their throats, and I don't care how much you click it to, well, humanize this mix 10%.
Yeah.
Or it's still a clock, and you're still getting humanized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite covers is "Gimme Shelter." It is so heavy, Mark. Like it is. I actually love it more than the Rolling Stones version. Like,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And one final thing, Mark, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, Three Dog Night aren't in it. The Guess Who aren't in it. You those three bands alone were so huge in the early 70s. And what are your thoughts on that? Like,
brother, it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Shame.
yes, it is.
Hall of Shame. Shame on them.
Yeah.
It's been politicized. There are people in there that do not belong there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are many bands that do belong.
Yeah.
That aren't there.
Yeah.
But the people, we don't have the influence that we once had. In 1996, here in the United States, Bill Clinton deregulated the FCC. And it was like, because there was no more people's influence on the radio. the radio turned to complete shit.
Yeah.
Everywhere. When you got corporate running the radio, those guys got no sense. It's like, the ears on a snake. They don't have them. So the influence of the people, the disc jockeys who kept the rock and roll communities together all around Canada and the United States, we knew what it was like. I mean, if you're an older guy like me or a gal, you remember those days, and I miss those days. But I do not listen to radio now unless it's a privately owned station. There's one here in northern Michigan, WKLT, that's privately owned, and I listen to them because they still rocking.
Yeah.
And they're it's DJs, it's people calling in, and there's still a lot of public influence in what we're listening to.
Yeah.
But after that deregulation, brother, that's what happened to us.
Mhm.
Corporate took over.
Yeah. Well, this has been a delight, Mark. Tomorrow is my 65th birthday, and this is one heck of a birthday present, Mark.
Happy birthday to you, Larry.
Yeah. So I'll have the information with the video for your website, and also a link for your Never and Always video from 2021. That is awesome. Great vocals. Like, you still got your vocals, and
I appreciate that.
And I saw your when you were on Howard Stern doing Closer to Home. That was so good.
Well, I'm working with Mark Slaughter now, who was in that Howard Stern presentation of Closer to Home, and we got some. I've been writing a lot, and so and Mark and I are brothers. He's part Native American, as I am. We're both Cherokee, and there's something about his relationship and mine together. We just function really good together, and what's coming out. I cannot wait hardly. It's because I've always had something to say, brother. It's like the spirit gives me things way in advance sometimes. But I'm very excited about it. I think the fans, if you like Grand Funk music, you're going to love this Mark Farner's American Band music.
Cool. And maybe I'll try and get Don Brewer on for an interview and get you guys back together. It'll be me.
Yeah. Do that, Larry.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mark.
Larry Graves. Yes.
Canadian Studmuffin.
Canadian Studmuffin. I love that, by the way, dude.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, man.
I am Canadian.
Yes. God bless you.
That's it, though.
Yeah, man. That's fine. You're a good neighbor.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark.
My pleasure, brother.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye for now.